When we imagine World War III, we often picture military battles. However, some argue it could manifest as a trade war in today's interconnected world. A trade war occurs when countries impose tariffs or barriers to influence others' economic practices. This would be a conflict for global economic supremacy, fought not through weapons, but through strategic moves in international markets. In this video, we explore whether World War IV or III could be a trade war and what that scenario might entail. What is a trade war? A trade war occurs when countries engage in escalating tariffs and other trade barriers to hurt each other's economies. The primary goal is usually to protect domestic industries or punish a rival country for its trade practices. For example, one country might impose high taxes, tariffs, on goods coming from another country to make their own products more competitive. In retaliation, the other country may impose similar tariffs and the cycle continues. Trade wars can have significant consequences for global economies. They can cause economic slowdowns, disrupt international supply chains, increase the cost of goods, and lead to widespread unemployment in certain industries. While these conflicts are often economic in nature, they can also have political and social implications, as countries use trade wars to assert their dominance and protect their interests. The shift in global power. The idea of trade war as the modern equivalent of World War III becomes more relevant when we consider the current state of global power dynamics. In recent years, economic power has shifted, and countries like China have become major players on the world stage. Historically, global conflicts were fought with military force, but now the world is witnessing intense economic battles. The rise of China and other emerging economies has disrupted the traditional balance of power, with the United States, European Union, and other established powers grappling with how to maintain their dominance. Trade wars are a tool that countries can use to challenge the power and influence of others in this new world order. Economic power is becoming just as important as military power in shaping global relationships. With the interconnectedness of global markets, even a small trade dispute can have far-reaching consequences, affecting not just the countries directly involved, but the entire world. The US-China trade war. One of the most notable examples of a modern trade war is the ongoing US-China trade conflict. The United States and China are two of the world's largest economies, and their trade relationship is crucial to global stability. Over the past few years, the US has accused China of unfair trade practices, such as intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and subsidies for Chinese businesses that make it harder for American companies to compete. In 2018, the US under President Donald Trump imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, marking the beginning of a trade war between the two nations. China quickly retaliated with its own tariffs on US products. This back and forth escalated, and the trade war reached new heights, with each country imposing new tariffs, limiting market access, and using other methods to hurt each other's economies. The trade war between the US and China is seen by some as a reflection of the shifting balance of global power. The United States is trying to protect its economic position, while China is asserting itself as a new economic superpower. While this is not a military conflict, the stakes are high. Both countries have enormous economic influence, and their trade relationship has a ripple effect on economies around the world. Economic warfare. Economic wars, such as trade wars, can have severe consequences, often more complex than military conflicts. Countries increasingly use economic tools like sanctions, tariffs, and trade restrictions to achieve political goals. These economic tools impact citizens directly, raising prices and causing inflation. Higher tariffs on goods can hurt industries reliant on exports or imports, leading to job losses and economic strain for everyday people. In today's interconnected world, global supply chains amplify the effects of economic conflicts. A trade war between two major countries, such as the US-China trade war, can disrupt production and distribution worldwide. This makes businesses face higher costs, layoffs, and slower growth. Furthermore, the global financial system's interdependence means that a trade dispute between two powers can quickly escalate, affecting other countries and causing global economic turmoil, similar to the 2008 Great Recession. Economic wars can thus ripple across the globe, impacting the entire world economy. Military conflicts versus trade wars. A trade war and a military conflict differ primarily in their methods of confrontation. Military conflicts involve physical violence, often resulting in casualties and widespread destruction. On the other hand, trade wars use economic strategies, including tariffs, sanctions, and trade barriers, to exert pressure. While trade wars can lead to severe economic consequences, they generally do not cause direct physical damage or loss of life. However, trade wars can heighten tensions between nations, and in some cases, might escalate into other forms of conflict, possibly even military action. While the likelihood of direct military confrontation is low, trade disputes have historically sometimes contributed to more serious conflicts. Unlike military conflicts, which often have clear lines between enemies and allies, trade wars can involve fluctuating alliances based on economic interests. A dispute between two nations may eventually draw in other countries with similar economic or political goals, increasing the complexity and potential risks of the situation. This unpredictability makes trade wars a different kind of challenge, one where the long-term consequences might be hard to foresee, but the potential for widespread impact remains significant. The potential for a global trade war. While it's challenging to foresee the future, the risk of a global trade war escalating into World War III is a real concern. Trade protectionism is on the rise, with nations prioritizing their own economic interests over international cooperation. As countries jostle for resources, markets, and global influence, trade wars are becoming more frequent. This could disrupt international trade systems, causing economic instability that could have long-lasting effects on the world economy. One of the key risks is that economic competition may push countries to leverage trade wars as a tool for gaining a strategic advantage. The emergence of new economic powers, such as China, is intensifying tensions with established nations. These rising powers could challenge the existing order, sparking conflicts over trade policies, tariffs, and influence. If these tensions continue to escalate without diplomatic resolution, there is a possibility that economic disputes could spiral into a larger geopolitical conflict. Although it is difficult to predict whether trade wars could lead to a full-scale global conflict, the increasingly volatile trade environment makes it a scenario worth watching closely. With the stakes so high, nations must carefully navigate these challenges to avoid disaster. In conclusion, while World War III might not look like the wars of the past, it could still be a form of economic warfare. The rise of trade wars as a tool for countries to assert their economic power is a sign of how the world is changing. A trade war between two major powers, such as the US and China, can have global consequences that ripple throughout the world economy. While it may not involve physical violence, the impact of trade wars can be felt by people around the world in the form of job losses, inflation, and economic instability. However, one thing is clear in the 21st century: economic conflict is a powerful force that can shape the future of global relations. As countries jockey for a position in a new global order, trade wars could very well become a central battleground in the quest for global dominance. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button for more in-depth analysis.